Come in. What a wonderful gathering. Well, as you all know, round here at the Centre for Policy Studies, we often have gatherings of our friends to celebrate book launches by distinguished authors and friends of the Centre for Policy Studies. But I think I can safely say with sincerity tonight that this really is, for the Centre for Policy Studies, a very special occasion. Because I have on my two sides one of the great original founders of the Centre for Policy Studies, Nigel Vinson, and I have on my left Jerry, who is a former director of the Centre for Policy Studies, and I think it's therefore appropriate for those of us here, like myself and the brilliant director Tim Knox and Jenny Nicholson and the rest of the wonderful team here at the CPS, to express a certain humility in the company of these two great men. You know that you very often hear it said that about world historical events, that people say to their children or their grandchildren, "I was there that day." And there is a marvellous moment in Charles Moore's brilliant biography of Mrs. Thatcher, in which he describes her sitting in the original office of the Centre for Policy Studies, and she is sitting on the floor, and she is putting a plug on the kettle. But, as he explains, she wasn't in fact wiring a kettle, she was rewiring conservatism. And Nigel was there at that moment, and therefore he played an absolutely crucial part in all this glorious history of which all of us at the CPS are so proud. Right now, if it would please Nigel, I'm going to make a little presentation, if I may, another first for the CPS. I'm just going to hold it up and I'm going to read it out. So what this says, this is a first, never happened before. The Board of Directors of the CPS, many of whom are here tonight. The Board of Directors of the CPS is delighted to appoint Lord Vinson of Rodham Dean LVO DL as a founding emeritus director, the first of the Centre for Policy Studies, March 2015, today's date. And I'm going to read at the bottom something Margaret Thatcher said in June 1989. Nigel probably wrote it. She says, since the Centre for Policy Studies was founded by Sir Keith Joseph, Nigel Vinson and myself, it has provided inspiration for many of the policies which our Conservative government has put into practice. A number of these policy ideas, which were often accused of being impractical when they were first put forward, are now universally accepted by governments across the world. So now we all can reflect, can't we, on the fact that the Conservative Party has not won a general election for 23 years. This may be something to do with the fact that, as one heard a Conservative press officer say at during a recent general election campaign, if you want philosophy, read Descartes. Well, around here at the CPS we do read Descartes, and we also read Vinson. We also read Gerald. And that gives us a view of a philosophy in which we have the most profound belief and in which we would like to express. So, Nigel, would you please accept this on behalf of the current Board of Directors of the Centre for Policy Studies?
I'll put it down. I think what gives me double pleasure is that Maurice speaks from the heart, and that's what everybody likes about Maurice. And I think that's what's making the centre the double success it is at the moment. And the other thing that I think makes what we all do a success is actually reflects the aspirations of most of the British working people. And the concept that you had to detoxify the Tory party got it, in my view, completely wrong. I talked to the workmen building my house recently, and farm workers, and lots of people I meet like that. My mother is, did I say my mother was chairman of the WI, my wife is chairman of the WI. So that's a good succession. Well, I had to marry her, keep it going. And we get the reflection back from people, you know, admire the qualities that she went for. And we have at the moment perhaps a Tory government that is a bit short on philosophy, I'm sure that will come back. But this centre has kept the flag flying and has done immense work, and it's just been my sheer joy to have taken part in its early beginnings. The Americans have a funny word for that, that Jerry, in his excellent biography of me, used happenstance. I mean, you just happen to be around at the right moment. I was just opening up tonight, as a schoolboy of 15, the canvassing posters that were put up to prevent denationalisation, and I nicked them off the headmaster's desk. And I had them in my book. And so I've been a political animal for a long time because I just believe that freedom, ownership, and the rule of law, and all the things that you believe in are deeply important, and we've just got to present these fundamental truths in a way that appeal to other people. And as myself, I've been blessed with wonderful health, wonderful wife, took a bit of finding, wonderful children, grandchildren, and sons-in-law, many of whom are here tonight. And just to sort of give you a bit of history, when you think over 80 years, when I was born, there were no national holidays except bank holidays. My mother pushed hard then to say that this is wrong. The standard of living since then has gone up by a factor of between 5 and 6, as much as anything due to the fact that on our farm then, the yields of wheat were a ton an acre, now they're more like 8 tons an acre. That is the productivity that has given us the prosperity we have today, that and in other fields. So, over that same period, when I was young, it was the empire in which the sun never sets, and now we're about to have an eclipse, which is probably rather tells the story. It's rather sad in this great epoch of history, nations and come and go, as Kipling put it so well once. So we've seen the apparent rise of Nazi Germany. You must remember its proper name, it's the National Socialism. We've seen the rise and fall of communism. We've seen that metamorphose into internationalism and all the bogus nonsense that goes with that, which has not done us too much good. But we see fundamentally the truths that this wonderful centre continues to expound, well accepted, hugely backed, and if I've had any, perchance, and by luck, a little part in that, of course I'm absolutely thrilled and I've got a good wife behind me. So, thank you for coming, and thank you, Jerry, for all the labour of love in writing this. You better tell them how difficult it was. And may we all continue to put every ounce left in our systems into making certain that the freedoms and liberty that we really believe in, so well expounded by the Centre here, under Morris and Tim and all the staff here, continue to be well promoted and are a core philosophy to the Tory party. Thank you.
Maybe call on Jerry to say a word or two about how this book came about.
Don't give it all away, Jerry.
Yes, certainly. I should be careful about urging you to buy it, because the last time I produced a book, I said, who is going to buy this rare first edition for only £20? And a voice at the back said, not as rare as a second edition. I will be careful about that. It's been a pleasure to write the book. I've known Nigel for 40 years. As Morris said, we were both here at the creation. I can only say, if it really was the case that Mrs. Thatcher was mending a kettle, Nigel would have made a much better job of doing it. I'm very grateful to Morris and to Tim and to my old friend and colleague Jenny for allowing us to have the book launch here, because part of Nigel's story is the story of the Centre for Policy Studies. It's not the only part, because in addition to being a treasurer and a contributor to the Centre's publications and output, he has been an entrepreneur, an inventor, a businessman, a campaigner, a farmer, a philanthropist. If you write a biography of a musician, you start with the first sonata and you work your way through the canon. But with Nigel, it was very difficult because his achievements lay in so many diverse fields. It's often said in books, of course it's now a part of political legend, that the Centre for Policy Studies was set up by Keith Joseph and Margaret Thatcher. An alternative version is that it was started by Keith Joseph and Alfred Sherman. Well, neither is strictly accurate. Mrs. Thatcher didn't play a prominent part. She wanted, Keith wanted some political cover, understandably, as he broke with the consensus policies pursued by Mr. Heath. Mrs. Thatcher plainly liked and admired Keith, but she didn't play a central role. She later became a consumer railwares. Research for her wrote speeches. But she didn't be misleading to say that she set the place up. It was Nigel who found the premises, a 3-storey townhouse in Wolford Street. Nigel who found the lawyer. Nigel who wrote the letterhead. Nigel who dealt with all the practical things that you need to do to set up a think tank. But he was also involved in the intellectual aspects of our work. He was the co-author of the first publication, Why Britain Needs a Social Market Economy. Some people disapprove of the use of the word social, but nevertheless it's a robust and clear statement of views, which I think still reads well today. He was useful in many other ways. Not only did he raise the money, he gave Keith Joseph sensible advice. We all thought that Keith was going to challenge Ted Heath, and we wanted him to do. Keith had raised the banner. We flocked to him, people in Fleet Street, his friends on the Sunday Telegraph, Patrick Hutler, on the Daily FT up, the younger people, what they do now, like John O'Sullivan, all urged Keith to stand. It seemed a natural thing. Keith, who had some doubts about whether he should actually fill the role, asked Nigel. And Nigel said, no, of course not, it will kill you. And of course his judgment was correct. It was only shortly after that that Mrs. Thatcher said at a meeting at CPS, well, Keith, if you're not going to stand, I will. How much notice Keith took of Nigel's advice is difficult to say, but quite clearly it was the right advice, and the advice that we gave was the wrong advice, as subsequent events showed. But this book is not only about Keith's role at CPS, it's about how he started a plastics company. As a young man, and he looks, even now he looks much younger than his years, but when he was...
Couldn't quite hear you, James.
But when he was 21, he looked about 16, and he went to his boss and said, realising the tremendous number of applications there would be if you could apply plastic to metal, he said, why don't we set up a company which will focus on this? And either because he thought that 50 companies wouldn't work, or because he thought Nigel was being a bit presumptuous, he dismissed the idea. So Nigel did it himself. He acquired a single Nissan hut, had one employee and a secretary, and he started to develop the systems which enabled you to apply plastic to metal. So you could make washing lines and washing bits in washing machines, and then a whole host of commercial applications. And soon there were 2 Nissan huts, and then there were 3, and then there were 5. And then there was a big custom-built factory at Guildford. Then there were more factories elsewhere. And by the time that Nigel had floated the company and then sold his controlling share to Imperial Tobacco, it was the largest company of its kind. It was at that point that he met Ralph Harris, who introduced him to Keith Joseph. But being a busy man, he also took on the role of honorary director of the Silver Jubilee appeal, which raised more money than any similar appeal in history. And at the same time, he bought a great stretch of farmland in Northumberland, where he still lives, and became an extremely successful farmer. So he's been a busy man, and I can't possibly describe all of his diverse activities because there are so many. I just say one more thing. He has supported good causes, conservative causes, free market causes, any cause that was obviously intended to expand the era of human liberty with vigour and, just as importantly, with large sums of money. It's impossible to work out how much money Nigel has raised for good causes, and it's impossible to know how much he's given himself, because he's never worked it out. But he continues. These are not one-off, these are not one-off gestures. These are donations which he has given over time to the IEA, to CPS, over decades, and all of us are profoundly grateful for that. So it's been a pleasure and an honour to write your biography. It's obviously been a life worth living. I hope you'll think it's a life worth writing about and a life worth reading about. Thank you.
Just have the last word, and being a proper market man, please remember there's no such thing as a free launch.
Buy the book. In fact, it's the chairman who always has the last word. Will you join me in reflecting what an honour it is to have these two here in the CPS today? Please do buy this book. It does tell the true story of something we all believe in and find very moving. Thank you all so much for coming.